It's so nice to see everyone and thank you for coming. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 16th, 2024, and it is 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Goldberg,
Present.
Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Tercivia.
Thank you. If we could all rise for the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We have nothing under presentations and proclamations. I'd like to open the floor for public comments. Any public comments?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's great to see you all here. Is this appropriate? It's not on automatic.
Is it on? Okay.
It's on. Should be on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Restart. Okay. I don't see anybody. Okay, I gotta speak louder. Okay, I just thought I would share some thoughts. Certainly in memory of Doug Hillman. One of the concerns I have is renaming the firehouse other than Doug Hillman is a problem for me. And would hope that you would revisit that. Now, what I really want to talk about is the whole Milani Park issue. I've gone through what you all have proposed here as an agreement of some kind. First of all, I want to thank Ron Liani for his active leadership in trying to work something out with Mrs. Milani. I know you all think she's a tough cookie and difficult to deal with, but she's a business woman. Happens to be, in my estimation, having been in business for 50 years, one of the best business minds in the town, pure business. So as I look at this from a business standpoint, Ron has a tough job because I don't think this is going to win. Now, what's important is you have got to stop any effort for that being turned into a park. And I think that if you don't work collaboratively with Mrs. Milani, you got a problem. I don't think this will work. And I think the reason why it won't work, I don't know because I haven't been up to date on what Ron has done lately, and I know he's made a lot of efforts, had meetings. I've been trying to stay involved, somewhat at the distance, because my involvement with Ms. Milani was at the time that Doug was mayor. If you don't form a partnership of some kind, friendly atmosphere, instead of this hostile attitude, I don't see how you're going to get her on board. You need to get her on board with this. If you don't feel right now that she can get on board, you're done. The county, and I think you know, commissioners, think that's a great thing that they're going to make this a park. It helps them in a number of ways, politically and otherwise, budget-wise. And yes, I think the initiative of trying to copy what's done in Jupiter is great, okay? But again, it comes back to the agreement and the participation by Ms. Milani. Now, over the years, remember, this has been going on 35 years. It is unbelievable that this situation has gone on for over 35 years, could go on for another 5 years or more, right? So she's done, I gotta believe, with litigation. And yet you want her to be part of any litigation efforts? That makes no sense. I know as a businessman, I would never do that. As I go down this, Is this what she wants? Has she agreed to this, Ron? I don't know, but I don't think so. In fact, I gotta believe any business sense here would say, no way. And I don't think lawyers would agree with that either. Again, she's been honed over the years because of forced litigation by both the town and by the county. So this is not a situation where you dictate to her what you want. It's a situation where you sit down and work it out together. Because right now, I don't see where there's a big benefit to her, only more exposure and more risk. So the only other point I would make is convincing the county with a lobbyist is kind of an obvious play. I gotta believe they'll see through that. So you really have to understand how you want this to work. And I don't see how Ms. Malani would want to work against the park openly with the county after 35 years of trying to make a park. There's got to be something more here. And I see in all of this, you know, you're willing to make amendments and concessions about heights, about extensions on years, on agreements, but you want her to make voiced opposition. I can only say to you in my best judgment, this will not fly. We really need to think more about the partnership, the relationship between you all and Ms. Malani and how that's going to work with the county. Because, I mean, I want you to succeed. I don't want the park. I don't think anybody here wants the park. This is not a winner. That's my observation, my assessment, reading through it, knowing what was done in the past, working with Doug Hillman. It's my best advice to you. Other than that, I want you to know my legs are straight. And I actually walked over here from the Clarendon after 3 months. Both knees done. That's all I have to say. And good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Jack.
I actually planned about talking about something else, but after hearing John talk,
So I guess name and where you live.
I'm sorry.
Name and where you live.
Oh, excuse me, Jack Halpern, 4511 South Ocean Boulevard, Highland Beach, Florida, for 27 years. After hearing John talk, I have to say, we have put the Committee to Save Highland Beach on hold right now as of December 31. We took the remaining monies that were in our account that we couldn't figure out how to portion it, and we donated it to the Friends of Highland Beach Library. The reason why we did that is because we think this commission, in terms of my own personal view, after 27 years in town, is the best commission we've ever had. And I think we're in the most transparent and openness in terms of what's going between the commission, town manager, town staff, and we're moving along on that. In terms of what you're doing, Malani, I think you're right on. I testified at the first, I don't know about the 35 years. I testified at the first public hearing over at the church. I don't have the date in front of me. I don't remember 2003 or 2005, in which we had hundreds of people and were able to put the stop on it with that and the proposed lawsuit and all the changes. I think you're right on in terms of what you're doing. What John doesn't indicate is he doesn't mention that Mrs. Malani was his major supporter when he was running for commission. So he probably should have added that as to, in terms of clarification and transparency. With that, keep going. You're doing great. Do want to congratulate Mayor Moore, Vice Mayor Stern, and Commissioner Goldberg on election. It's great to see that, and we're hoping that it continues in this reign, not only this election, but the following elections to come about. So thank you. We have all of our paperwork sitting in hiatus. We can resurrect us at a moment's notice if we have to, but we don't see the need now. The referendum should pass, shouldn't be a problem. And in terms of naming, yes, Mayor Hillman was a good man, but we have to look at the future of the town and not go backwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? Okay. Seeing no additional comments, moving on to ordinances, we have none. Moving on to unfinished business, fire rescue implementation update.
Hey, Chief, can you give us an update?
I'm Joseph, Fire Chief, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Quick update on what's been going on for the last 2 weeks since we last met. My eyes on because I read better. So have you noticed the stuff was completed, but we couldn't finish the painting because of the weather. We've had high winds and rain for the last few weeks. So we're working on getting that done. Drywall, construction wise, on the first floor, is all done. Second floor is about 90% done. And the first coat of paint on the first floor is done. We're beginning the second floor. It's almost done the second floor as well. The next thing is the ceiling grids on the first floor is all done. So we actually have air conditioning in the first floor because we have current power now. And we're beginning the grid for the ceiling tiles and all the vents and lighting and fuses and all that stuff. Beginning on the second floor this week. So like I said, we have current power and air conditioning on the first floor. The bay doors are at the distributors in Pompano Beach. They'll be delivered sometime this week for installation. And when that's done, we'll begin the front ramp. So we'll begin construction on that and that should take a couple of weeks to get done. Elevator companies on site, they're coordinating to do it for delivery next week. And so we should have the elevator being constructed because they bring in parts and then they put it together. And we're doing that next week and the couple coming weeks. So the elevator should be up and running pretty soon. Wrapping up the site water drainage system, storm water runoff and sewer. That's being wrapped up this week. So we should have that finished up and buttoned up by the end of this week. The next major task, like I said, is the front ramp, pouring that and getting it set up. That shouldn't take more than 2 weeks according to the contractor. And so far they've been right on track with those estimates. So we're still TCO probably around the end of February, first week of March, when we're looking at as of this coming schedule. If there are any delay, sick, but for right now we're looking at towards the end of February, first couple of weeks of March. So we're about a month ahead of where we estimated. Staffing wise, we have 3 captains of 4 with a final employment letter. So when we added the extra shift, we had to interview more people to get the place. We have 5 candidates that are going through background right now. And of those 5, we only need 1. And I think all except for 1 person said they would accept the driver's position if we need them in that role. So they could go back and forth. We have 3 of the 8 drivers, and we have, I think, let's see what my numbers are, 5 going into backgrounds right now. And again, the captains, if we need them, we can move them down if something comes up. So we're well ahead scheduled there. Of the 16 firefighters, we have 8 with the employment letter set up. And we have another 8 in medical right now. So we've already done the backgrounds and we're doing the medicals right now. And that has been the slowdown because Accenture, their process is a little bit not as expeditious as we'd hope. But we're hoping to have all that wrapped up by the end of January, at least. Probably not the letters sent out, but at least have people identified, backgrounds done, medicals done, and get that set up. People that have already been signed up, we're doing the physicals, the fitting for the uniforms and the bumper gear and all that stuff. So that's being done right now. And equipment wise, we purchased or ordered all of the major purchases as of this last week. We have a few more small stuff to buy. Hose, nozzles, water appliances, tools and equipment, but they're smaller. But all the things, the large items, 40,000 and above, we've already either ordered them, purchased them, or spec'd them out, so they're on their way. And so we're still on track for March 4th opening as far as getting the captains on board and getting the rest of the crews online by March 18th. When everybody will be on site. So the next thing we have to decide and discuss is ribbon cutting, grand opening dates for that, see what your schedules look like. And so we need to start early on because I need to invite some terms around the county. And so we need to get that started probably in the next couple of weeks, maybe like beginning of February, start thinking about what you want done, how you want it done, who you want to invite back. Any questions?
Very exciting. Love to hear this great news. Sounds like the construction is on track early. The hiring is in progress and you're in really good shape. As far as the date for I don't know if we want to talk about the date now. Like
For
for-
the
for
grand
the-
opening.
For the grand opening, are you?
I think we'll circulate some dates.
Okay.
And then over the next couple meetings, we'll begin to refine what that looks like, when it'll be. Make sure the site's ready and prepared to accommodate a group of folks and go from there.
Yeah, just thinking about it in your calendar and see what works best for you and who you want to invite, and kind of things. That way we can put a plan together and have it be early rather than last minute, sending emails out. Save the date.
You're thinking like April? Is that about?
I
Or-
was thinking
or
maybe
maybe
April
March.
15th, they're about to have
Okay.
everybody on board. They'll have
Okay.
been here a while. They have the uniforms, so we could do our pictures and
So mid-April. sometime.
so mid.
Okay.
That'll
Okay.
be.
Very
that would be
exciting.
nice,
Yes,
Jeff.
it is.
Very
This
exciting.
is
Very exciting.
extremely exciting and
So the only issue that we've had with the hiring, which has been more complicated than we anticipated because of the medical have been taking longer than anticipated. Usually they're very quick and turnaround, but we've had people waiting for blood work for 2 weeks. I don't think it's necessarily the vendor, it's just, it's a busy time of year. We're working through that.
Why don't you do the blood work?
I can
Collect
do
it, right?
do That's how we plan on doing it next year.
Have the boss take your blood, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to comment, congratulations, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it's, I think, very remarkable that this construction, massive undertaking, has followed the date, the contemplation of everything has worked. And having you at the helm is the reason, I'm sure.
No, I have a great team. I mean, Teresa, we have the manager.
Oh, yes,
We have
absolutely.
Eric, when he was here, we have a lot of people, the purchasing people, writing checks. Dee Dee and the finance department, David and Susie, and then Kaufman Lynn, they've been running track, they've been the superintendent they have on site, Mr. John Rickard, outstanding. Jimmy Lane is great, Jean Lane, good. I mean, so we've had Ms. Schultz at the Kaufman Lynn, she does all the financial and the doc, I mean, just a great team who come together. So I'm the face of it, yeah, but we have Tom McCarthy, we've got Matt Wellhop, everybody's working diligently, and Sylvie Pierre. Everybody's working together to try to get this done on time and do it the right way. So I'm just the face. We have a huge team back there doing outstanding.
Well, certainly when we acknowledge you, we acknowledge the town and all the support that you have. And I must say, I like this April 15th. It happens to be my birthday.
Really?
Yeah, I like that.
I like what you think.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you, thank you.
All right, have a good day. Thank you much.
thank
Okay,
you very much.
Thank you, Chief. There it is. And we're under budget, so that's always good too. So
That's also excellent.
it's always
Better.
good news too. Not as
Yes.
exciting, but
No, it is.
finances are all in the right
Yeah,
spot.
no, it is very exciting. Okay, Florida, the next item, Florida Department of Transportation, Triple R project update.
I guess the next would be our March meetings. So look at the manager's minute, the website. There's a virtual and in-person meeting. That will be the construction side of the conversation with FDOT and their selected vendor. I have not been made aware of who was awarded the contract, but they'll be here to talk about their projects and how they plan to coordinate that, what the schedule is, timelines, things of that nature. So that's the next big push. That is March 7th, I believe. Am I right on that? Where's Teresa? It's not here today. March
Thank
7th, I think is the
So,
date.
Yeah.
Yeah, March 7th in the evening here. 6 to 7 is the in-person here. There's a 5 to 6 o'clock virtual. So if you can't make it, just sign up. We'll check your emails and whatnot. Come to the website. We'll get you through FDOT, get you logged in, and then you can do the virtual meeting and make sure your comments and feedback is heard. Any questions you have. And again, as we go into those meetings, there's going to be something one-off, something unique about an individual property. I don't know that they'll be able to get to everybody's singular needs, but if you bring it to them, they will be more than glad to meet with you after the meeting or come out to your property if you're worried about grades, structures, things of that nature from the road to your property. So all of that. And then we'll definitely need your cooperation with the irrigation. As they move through, they'll mark irrigation. So for the condos, we'll contact your property managers, the presidents, just to keep us on point. We agreed to help FDOT a little bit, make those contacts so they know where that irrigation can be marked and moved and all that.
Excellent. Okay, next item, Building Department Recertification Program Update.
Commission, Jeff Remus, building official, Town of Highland Beach. Great news. So of the 53 buildings that we have that are required to go through the milestone inspection report, we now are up to 4 that have completed the recertification. So we have Dalton Place, which was the first. We also have Highland Towers, Trafalgar, and Highlands Place. All have completed everything. We currently have 24 buildings that have complied and submitted their information. And of those 24, there are, let's see, three of those buildings are currently undergoing restoration right now. I do have one it's missing some electrical report, but it has already submitted the structural. So a lot of these other 22 are going to be starting have to do some sort of restoration, some sort of repair work, whether it's structural, electrical, or both. And then we have 5 buildings, 2 HOAs, but 5 buildings that just haven't complied with submitting any documentation at all. And we're working with them. We continue to work with them and reach out to them. And that's where we're at. We have no extensions. They're all gone. We have 14 buildings that have been notified, but their due date hasn't come up yet. And other than that, we have 6 buildings that are they're newer and we can't even notify them yet because they're that far off, and that's it.
When you say they're the newer buildings, they're just not, they don't need to comply because they didn't reach the age requirement. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, they're just
Okay.
not there yet because of the age.
Okay. The 5 buildings, when you said nothing's been done, there's no activity, have they been in touch with you or undergone any renovation?
So of that, one of the HOAs has 4 buildings that is currently undergoing structural renovation, but they still will not give us the reports. And I think sometimes there's a misconception because I had to speak with a few of them. They think that they need to give us a report that's clean, that says everything's good. That's not the case. We need the report of the status of the building when you did the inspection. So once I explained it to some of them, then they were holding off because they thought they had to get stuff. I'm like, no, just give us the report. So we just need the reports so that we can show compliance. And otherwise, they just go to a code hearing in front of the code board. And I don't think anyone wants that. We certainly don't want that. We just want compliance, but we just need the reports. And that's it.
So you're looking also for an interim report. So if they have undertaken renovation, we see it, construction is going. You want some preliminary report to give you a status?
Yeah, well, actually, we don't need that. We just need the original report that they knew that told them what they needed to do.
Okay,
So we just need that original report for structural and electrical, say, hey, here's the status. We have it, it's documented, they're compliant, and then now they can start the process of either continuing to renovate or starting new renovations if they're not.
thank you.
You folks have also issued a nice certificate upon completion, which goes to the condo, which could be also.
Yes, and I think in the future, we're gonna start framing them from what I'm told.
Yes, well, sorry about that. We'll get you a frame.
All right, we'll take care of that.
Congratulations. Glad to hear there's
Gold
good
star
progress.
is it?
That's great. That's excellent.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the continued discussion of Milani Park, and I know we also have another item.
Yeah, so we're gonna go twofold. I'll give you updates since we got a more captivated audience. I'm glad everyone is here. Again, just to communicate what we have been, okay, Milani Park's been in place. That property was sold to the county back in the 80s. Back and forth with the county, some lawsuits pursued. They get approval to move the park. They get that in place between the Milanis and the county. County comes to the town says, no, thank you. We go to court, they get a judgment, settlement, on the property, which basically stipulates what they're allowed to do when and how, which we've all been familiar with. So, as we had been talking, nobody wants the park, right? So there might be a couple of people that want a park. So I heard in public comment that I don't know if they were talking the county, but not this commission, just for people to know, the town commission has not expressed any desire for this park. Complete opposite, not wanting the park. And that's why we've developed a pretty in-depth strategy of how we are going to convince the county. So we said one thing we had to do is to separate the administrative approach from the community approach. Two community champions have come forward, Ron Riami and Eve Rosen, have agreed to kind of lead a little bit of a charge and reach out to all the condo groups. They needed a little help at your individual guidance, willingness to bring in. I have Sharon Merchant. Sharon, could you raise your hand? Yep. So she is our consultant, lobbyist, public outreach coordinator, helping that group stay on point with messaging and being prepared for the February 1st public hearing for the county. So she's doing a lot of work, sending lots of emails. Thank you. Keeping me on point, keeping the group on point, doing everything we can to be the most prepared and build our case or public record of the community's initiative against it. So we're hoping that everybody will attend. We're making sure we have adequate provisions for parking. Anybody that can't walk from the church, we'll find a way to get you here. I know the public works guys and Skender are working on maybe we get a golf cart or something to move people back and forth. So we're making that big push. On the other side is our administrative process. One on a contractual side, making sure whatever the county does, we're holding their feet to the fire on every element of that contract. So that is ongoing. As you know, on July 7th, that's when Virginia Baker County Administrator executed the 2-year window for development. So once they say they're going to start that project, they have to undertake these, say, 40 some odd items. They do our prescribed in a particular order. So we're watching to make sure all of those are going in place. And then the other is, working, what we'll discuss later is some other possible, one possible avenue that's being discussed between us and Ms. Milani and her team. So we're working on all three of those. As we had discussed, this initiative is a pretty tall order, and we all understood that. So as I bring things forward like today, when we have these public conversations, we're taking every shot we got to achieve that goal. The goal is not guaranteed, but boy, we're making one heck of an effort to get there, leaving no stone unturned and not making every possible effort. Talking to people, calling to folks, getting professional lobbyists and outreach coordinators to help make sure that we don't miss our chance, because this is it. This is our last chance to convince the county if we can. So that's where we're starting with that. And we have started that plan, executed that plan, and all of that will start coming each meeting a little bit more. But again, February 1st is the next big effort. I would encourage the community. We're sending things out. I believe the resident group's going to send out a postcard. We're sending out the manager's minute reminders in the email blast. So hopefully everybody does decide to come and express their concerns, their feedbacks, their feelings about the park, or if whatever you've got questions. So the county will be here in this building. Right now, I know it's just Commissioner Woodward and her team. I'm guessing somebody from administration will also be with her, along with the facilities and construction team, parks director. So the county will have a group of folks to answer those questions. Just so people wonder, why isn't the town commission up front with them? I've asked the town commission not to look like we're facilitating the meeting, because we're not. It is the county's meeting. I will step forward, introduce the county commissioner, And our commission will be in the crowd mixing with all of you. So you can have an opportunity. If you can't get directly to the county commission, one of your commissioners or myself will be here to help you out. So that's the next big efforts and steps. And then we do have this conversation about this potential amendment to the adjacent properties. I'll hold that conversation as to the pros and cons of that until we get there. And again, pulling this off in Florida is one of the more challenging things I've ever had to do in my career, because I can't talk to people outside of this venue. So the one-off conversations, it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to try to bring together working documents like you see today. That involved 50 phone calls and it's a lot to bring together a basic concept. So thank you, Ron, for keeping in Ms. Milani's ear to see what they may or may not be interested in hearing. But we'll talk about that in a minute when that agenda item comes up.
I just want to say that I think we all understand that this is not a for sure result. And we support you and everyone together as a team. We're in this together, and we're going to work together to try to, stop development of the park. But I just want you to know that we do fully understand, at least I do, and hopefully I speak for everyone, that this is a difficult task, and that, town hall staff has our full support. And I think we all also decided that it was something that we wanted to put our resources towards. This was, we definitely wanted to invest in this, put money behind it, town staff hours behind it and resources. So just want the community to know that we are, we did decide that we are, putting significant resources behind this effort to give it our best effort to overcome this decision. And I guess one question I had, the public meeting that we're having February 1st, will that be recorded like a typical
Yeah,
meeting?
we're working on that. Since I got a text from Tricia, so I know that her and Mark, our IT consultant in the back, is working on to make sure at least we can have a YouTube or Zoom presentation. So it'll be Zoomed, you can watch it. I do not believe the county is going to allow for interaction virtually. So you can't stay at home, watch it on your screen and talk in, but you can watch it. So we'll make it so you can watch it live, have a recording, post it on YouTube. So then there will be a video of the conversation and event. And I think that our consultant would greatly appreciate too, kind of creating that record so we can share that with others in the future. Because one of the other strategies is the mayor, which doesn't know this, going with one of our other consultants, going to every county commissioner and pleading that case on the political side of mayor to commissioner, county commissioner, to express how we don't want this. But so long as Ms. Merchant has indicated, we'll have a very good case record to be able to present to them. So it's not like, hey, we just don't want it. We'll have a lot of evidence of that.
And the recording is our responsibility, right? We're not leaving it to the county. It's
Nothing to chance.
Okay,
Leaving
good.
nothing to
That's what I
chance.
wanted to
That's correct.
clarify. Go ahead.
Logistically, how are we going to handle a big overflow crowd that may arrive here?
We're working on that too. We're hoping we could put additional watch rooms within the library. So we still have to, again, a lot of this is organic and growing and moment to moment. When I get the opportunities to talk with Mark in the back there to see, can we broadcast it on other TVs within the library? We may just take over the library facility and say, you can go to the patio in the back. I know Ms. Merchant wants speaking cards so we can document it. So then if people are somewhere else in the library, your name is called, we could kind of direct traffic so everybody gets their opportunity. We're still trying to figure out, what kind of time limits on public comments. Because I'm sure everybody's going to have something to say. At least that's what everyone feels free to tell me what they're feeling. So I'm guessing that same will be given to the county. So there'll probably be half the crowd will want to make an official public comment. So we'll try to coordinate that and find more spaces to watch it. I think it's about good as we can get. I can't get a gauge. One would think that there'll be a big crowd, right? Height of season, everybody's in town. Nobody really likes the idea of the park. I'm guessing it'll be a good turnout on a Thursday evening. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. I don't know what that number is. Is it 100 or is it 300? Sometimes I have difficulty gauging, right? Food truck event, right? I thought there would be 300 to 400, closer to 1,000. You just never know what pops up when the crowd, what draws that interest. So I think we'll have a good turnout. I think that I know at least the room will be full, and then I'm expecting some overflow to, like you're suggesting. How do we coordinate that? We'll do our best we can.
And would it be possible for St. Lucie Church to?
Oh, yeah, I'm
host?
sorry. Yeah, so the church is gonna allow us for overflow parking.
But wouldn't allow us for their ballroom that would be bigger than?
The concern, what we're hearing is larger public entities into houses of worship aren't really, it's not really connecting well right now.
Okay.
Traditionally, it's been the reluctance of the government. Now I think it's the reluctance of the religious facility to have folks in there, especially if it's a tense environment. I don't know that they want, but you're right. They have the best room in town to facilitate it.
That's fine. I just wanted to.
But a barely
discuss it.
charged crowd. So
Yeah.
at least they will give us,
Parking, yeah.
overflow parking. It's only a couple blocks away.
Right.
It's February. The weather, hopefully it gets better than this, but we'll be, not raining that week and everybody can just walk in. Again, we'll try to make accommodations for people that can't. The mobility is somewhat limited. We'll be able to get you around so everybody has an opportunity to attend.
I just want to piggyback on what you're saying with getting the word out. Although we have the winter people here, I think they're more inclined to pay attention to going to the pool and enjoying their home in Hyman Beach. I'm wondering, have you thought about media coverage, social media, including?
If I could break just for a little bit of flexibility, if I could, Mayor. Sharon, would you like to come and say a few things? Kind of what the strategy is to make sure how we're covering each and other, because I've missed some of those things.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for letting me to be here and meet you and speak with you.
So if you could state your name and.
Yes,
Yeah.
my name is Sharon Merchant and my firm is The Merchant Strategy, located in West Palm Beach. I'm just a tiny bit about myself so you have some inkling. I'm local. I was raised in Lake Clark Shores, just up the street, 5th generation actually. And I served in the legislature for 4 terms in the House in the 90s. So I represented as far south as Boynton and Briny, almost got you. And as far north as Jupiter, the districts were bigger then. So as Marshall indicated, my firm does 2 things. We do public involvement and I do some government relations or lobbying, whichever you prefer to call it. So a couple things, and I'll answer the questions that have been asked. I was trying to make notes. One thing that I was thinking as I got here is, have you guys considered doing a resolution to the county expressing your position on the park? Because I think that would be a good instrument.
Yeah, I think Glenn will have that for the next meeting.
And I'll help him draft it. I mean, we've done a ton of these in the past, but back in the day. And I did get to meet with Ron and great, enjoyed meeting them both. I'm sure they will be very helpful. So mention was made of how we're going to reach out to residents. There will be a mail piece, an invitation, if you will, just reminding people about the meeting. We can, if you have emails, we certainly can do email. I think you gave us the addresses, but I'm not sure if we got the emails or not. We are set up. We can do social media if that's something that is useful here. If a lot of residents use Facebook or one of the others, that's a typical thing for us. As to the cards, the county, if you go testify at the county, they make you fill out a card and typically they'll give you 3 minutes to speak. I don't know if she'll want them to do 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but what that would do for us is to create a record of your residents' wishes and what their concerns were and things of that nature. So, we can make copies of those before we hand them in. It also will help maybe manage the speakers of the crowd a little bit as there isn't. I imagine you're going to have an overflow. I guess it is, as Marshall said, hard to tell how many will actually come. But also those that don't want to speak, but they want their wishes read into the record, that will accommodate that as well. And that way, when we go speak to the other county commissioners, you know, you can bring a lot with you that way. If you guys do your resolution and we have written evidence and recorded evidence of what the positions are of your residents, I think that's helpful. I know as an former elected myself, that would be very motivating to me personally. We are working on a press release, and of course, none of these things will go out without Marshall's say so. And I think that's all I had, but I'll be happy to answer anything I can for you. One of the other ideas we had was that everybody who attended, like at the county, a lot of times groups that go in and want to be recognized as a group wear a sticker. So we'll have a sticker made that basically just has a circle and a slash, no parking. So just so that she's aware, if every single person wears that, it's pretty eye-opening, I think. And maybe that'll help her reconsider her decision.
That's a great idea. A very visible way to show if everyone's wearing this very bold sticker. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
I have a question with regard to Facebook. I'd like your opinion. If we were to go on Facebook with an ad, an attractive ad, I mean, whatever you call that, okay? Promotion, for the meeting, but giving maybe by an attachment, the background of Milani, where our position is, why our position is, you know, the reasons for it, and come to this meeting to express your opinion to the county.
I think it's, I think that developing issues fully to help residents formulate their statements is really important. Just as it's important, if somebody comes here and they're respectful to you and respectful of your time and they have a cogent argument, it's much easier to give credibility. I mean, you feel like that person has more credibility. Part of what I think I need to do is help develop those messages with Marshall and Ron and everybody who wants to be part of that, and develop it to where if somebody wants to speak about, their concern is that you have a huge turtle nesting population here, then let's give them enough data that they could make a really good statement about it. If they're concerned about traffic or safety, let's give them enough meat on the bone to where they can, I'm sure they can think of a lot of that on their own, but I think it's helpful to have some of the issues thought out and distributed so that people can give a more thoughtful.
I think that would be so effective for everyone to see what the cogent arguments are.
But we'll also use those in a press release.
Mhm.
And you guys might also want to use something like that in your resolution, if you choose to do one. So I think the more consistency we have, and there are things like that occur to me. Virginia Baker, who's the county administrator, she's nearing retirement, and her thing really is workforce housing. So if Mrs. Maloney did go along and it did work out to where something else was done with this property, it would free up capital for workforce housing or for another park or whatever capital improvement they wanted to allocate the resource to. So I think that we just have to be real consistent in your idea with Facebook, and the same kind of consistency. To me, that's just being smart.
The reason I like it is because it's going to, everyone looks at Facebook. Well, at least this population, I think, more inclined rather than to the
I'll
other.
tell you something, it's funny, we do a lot of public involvement, and it's people, my age and up that use Facebook. It's not kids anymore, it's really grown-ups, and it's the way they communicate with families and stay in touch. So I think that's pretty useful.
Now I'd like to know the timeline. What do we have to do when to get ready by?
Okay, Marshall.
Well, I mean, we met, what was that? We met on Ron was at the 4th. So we met on the 4th.
Right.
We have less than 30 days to pull off everything that we just talked about and make it and execute it,
So the,
Issues development is going to be a little bit difficult because we don't have a lot of the statistical side, right? We want to wish we had reams of data. Some of it's going to be seemingly anecdotal, but visual. So, some of those things we're going to work through, but February 1, we want to be able to have all of that in place to deliver to the county Commissioner Woodward, and go from there. So like I said, we're pulling every lever, right? If you think about it with these everything that we should be doing, we're doing it and then some. There's nothing left that we can do. We're at the 12th hour and we are executing and firing on all cylinders to do something to get this to get attention to stop it.
I think to further respond to your question, the stickers are designed in at the printer. The invitation is designed and at to go to the residents at the printer. And these are all, everything's get in the shoot. I did develop to the degree I could with my limited time and knowledge and lack of history here, the issues and, I think even Ron and Marshall and I and whoever else wants to be involved will help develop those, but they're already there and that'll be the basis of the press release and anything else that we do so that everything's consistent.
Are you equipped, your firm, with digital marketing,
We're not a marketing firm.
with digital preparation of it, or do you have to go outside, or do we have to go outside?
You mean to put together an invitation or something like that?
No, to go online, if we were to
go
do that.
online? Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do
Okay.
that. I mean, we're not gonna have geo fencing and some of the fancy stuff that, a firm that really specialized in that would have, but sure, we do that all the time.
We'll put a message out on we have our own Facebook, Twitter accounts, just to let people know as a matter of fact, here's what's available. Please attend. Here are our concerns. As we develop each piece that goes out, we start to infuse a little more reasons why, traffic, pedestrian, vagrancy, sea turtle nests, all of those things, quiet enjoyment, those things that we're really concerned about are the reasons why it isn't a good fit. Not to understate that they're $750 million short on their capital plan. Why are you spending this money when you have things that have been waiting years longer, ranked ahead? Why would you allocate limited funds down to the bottom of the list when you could sell it, take those dollars, move on with your life? We no longer become your thorn, if you will, or concerned resident group, however you want to package that nowadays. I think there's a good win for everybody to move away from a project that isn't desired, and it's kind of atypical when we've talked about this. Most communities would want a park. We're saying, nah, no thanks. We want to keep the continuity of our community, our little barrier island, our 3 miles of paradise intact and similar, that we don't need this big push of public entrance and access for our residents even, or others. South County doesn't need a park. Now, do they need a park potentially with the growth and the acreage and yeah, but are they coming all the way to Highland Beach with no bathrooms? No, we're not coming here. So why are you allocating limited resources to a park that really doesn't fit what they need when they can allocate those funds to another park, or better yet, workforce housing, which we just passed a bond issue for? Why aren't we, leveraging to the max where the county commission thought it was a big enough priority to ask us for money? Well, why aren't they putting all their resources into priority number 1? So, but again, you got to get their attention, and it's hard to get that moment of time and convince,
Well, I would say also you should consider that the county commissioners themselves are relatively new body. I mean, with term limits, they're not the same people that have been there over the years that you've traditionally spoken with. So I think you'll have maybe a new look at it.
Yeah, so I think it's such a compelling argument that they're short on money, and this is a way to free up money to put towards other high priority projects. Definitely think affordable housing, and if it's not in the right category, I mean, I would think even like some other park where they could use that money to buy a lot more land to make a much bigger facility that would impact many more people than just a small park. I think that is just so compelling. I don't even make surprises me with it. We're even here. So another argument that a lot of us have against this, it seems like as we ask about instances of vagaries or unsightly, people that you don't want at these public parks, you kind of get, oh, there's really not any of that there. They kind of say that really doesn't happen. But then as you talk to people that are, you hear anecdotal evidence of what actually goes on. They say, yeah, there's all kinds of problems here.
Well, your chief could certainly inquire of the chief in Boca or one of the other cities that have parks
Okay.
and ask for some data.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think we
I-
definitely need that, but I guess my concern is we're a small town. We have a small police department. Yes, and yes, we have our own and we're about to build out this fire rescue. I'm very concerned about the drain on our public safety services. We
It's a
have
legitimate argument.
we
It's
have
good.
only so many police officers at one time. So if they're addressing some issue at a county park, because the county did tell us that they do rely on the municipality for addressing any immediate needs. So if, we only have a few police officers on that day and they're addressing somebody at the county, then it leaves the rest of the town uncovered.
Well, certainly falls
Um,
under safety. I think that's a great
Absolutely.
point,
I
yeah.
mean, I think that's really been overlooked by the county. I think it's very different when, Delray and Boca, they have much bigger public safety departments. And, perhaps can really cover when there's something like that. But in a small town like that, like us, that is just really not possible. And I think that, yeah, so when we did meet with them, Marshall and I one-on-one, and the more I think about that meeting, the more, it just kind of is angering how, they basically expect the municipality to address any immediate needs. They expect the police department or fire rescue. And then they say, county personnel, park rangers will come and address it. The other point that they made during that meeting was the county had developed some, in my opinion, arbitrary goal of having so much beach frontage per capita. And as we've received different articles, it's hard for me to get a handle on. So where are they in that goal? And how much would this park even further that goal? I mean, I read a couple articles that it seems like they're kind of that goal already, that there is so much beach per capita right now, and that they're just thinking ahead, well, population's gonna grow, so they need more. But I mean, this is such a small park that it's really not going to really advance this goal in any meaningful way. So I don't know if that's another, component of this, because that, from the Parks and Recreation individual, that was like one of her main arguments was Palm Beach County has this comprehensive plan. And so they want so much beach per, which all sounds great. But then there's an article about beachfront in Jupiter that has not been developed, and much bigger property, acres. And they haven't developed it. And it's been decades since they have. So I think that's another compelling point. And I guess, so as I rattle all these things off, there's a lot. And I'd hate to water down. I don't know if we should prioritize some of these issues. Sometimes when you give too many messages, you lose the effectiveness. So I don't know if we should prioritize. I think we need some help in prioritizing what are the most compelling and would be the best at convincing county staff at changing their decision. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to feel sorry for us if we only have, so many police
No.
officers,
They're not gonna feel sorry for us.
But I mean, that's an unintended cost for us, because if we have to add police officers, then that increases our budget for police.
Well, your commissioners, you have a more conservative board than you did previously, so that may help. They don't like to get in somebody else's district, right? I know they don't like to do that, but I think you guys have a very compelling case, and I think we build up all the evidentiary items that we need. And we go into it logically and give them our best argument. I can only say you guys are elected, obviously, you know what it would feel like if somebody came to you and presented you that sort of information. I would be inclined to go along with the town because I represent them and essentially they're my boss, so that's how I would look at it personally. And hopefully I can help you put together a compelling enough body of documents and recordings and resolutions and so on to compel that. but I'm gonna give it my best shot anyway. And please call on me if you guys want me to help you with anything else, or I can go through Marshall, whatever you like, but I'm very easily accessible.
My other thought, I think one of the reasons our food truck events are so popular is because we serve food. Should we serve anything at the?
Could have a
Maybe.
food truck event and surprise everyone. Go inside. You like Milani? Go inside. No, it's,
And I just.
it's a
encourage
draw.
paid
I just-
people, they come.
I just don't want to make it too whimsical of an event. I think there has to be some sense of gravity and seriousness to it. And I don't want to look like it's, you know, food and drinks and ice cream and, you know, then it's just, you know, getting people drummed up. I think, because I don't know how much time they're going to give us. They may only give us an hour and a half. I'm guessing 2 hours, 6 to 8, before the county commissioner and or her staff's going to pull the plug. Because if we all recall, when things weren't agreeable to this community, we had a good time of tying up people and meetings for long periods of times to make our voices heard. So I think, I hope people will show up. I'm guessing people are going to come. I wouldn't think people wouldn't show up. That they're okay with it. I don't know that our community's turned over 3 times in the last 2 years where people think it's a great idea all of a sudden. So, I think we're making a heck of an effort. The issues, you know, kind of development, we'll get it as close as we can and get it to where we need. And those are very good arguments when you go sit down with each commissioner and you sit down with, you know, the mayor of the county and say, listen, you know, you're missing some of these things. And you'll be able to get there without staff. I don't think we're going to be able to convince county staff. I tried to make that effort last week. I don't think county staff is really who we're going to make contact with. It's going to be a somewhat more political in nature to drive the staff to make the change versus the staff driving it up. I don't know that that chance might be a little bit of a long shot, and I didn't get that impression as much as Ms. Merchant kind of laid out there. You know, we got to kind of take a more political commissioner to commissioner type approach.
But do we have a pulpit ourselves at that meeting? Can we be heard? Commissioners, or is that
You could, if you want to.
Not appropriate.
You know, maybe observing, because I think you already know. We are expressing your opinion clearly. So, you know, I would think the resident turnout is kind of to create an eye opening for Commissioner Woodward that we really don't want this. She still believes that we want this project. And I'm not sure who she's talking to, or maybe she's getting some bad advice or bad opinions. So if we come and say, you know, parks are nice and all, but this isn't the appropriate park at the appropriate place at the appropriate time. So this isn't it. Again, you know,
have we ever considered a petition?
yes and no. We
It's time-
could have, I don't know how much time. I mean, they triggered their 2-year window. There's not a lot of, it appears they've already made their mind. So now we're getting everybody to backtrack off, you know, and I'm thinking the other 6 commissioners aren't really from what I could see, really focused on it. So we're gonna work that route. I mean, you could do a petition. There's a petition for everything. You know, we could try. I mean, it's always something. I don't know that we're gonna get a petition by February 1st. I mean, there's
That's
just so
valid.
much we can handle in brief
we need
periods of
to-
time.
Time constraint.
I mean, that's something that those could be follow-up initiatives to further prove our case. But we're hoping on February 1, we get attention. Not like bad attention, but their attention, like, oh, this town definitely does not want a park, you know, like, oh, I misread that. So, that's really kind of where we're at this point.
Public comment, come on. Yeah, John? Sure. Come.
John Shoemaker, I'm at the Clarendon. First of all, I want to say that I'm here strictly as a volunteer citizen with interest. Forget what was said earlier, Vice. A thorn to this town, in my view. I'm here to help. And I want you to win. Okay? Now, relative to the commissioners, feedback that I get, which I still get, is that those commissioners are in favor of making this a park. That's a fact. And in fact, what I've been told, and I'm gonna be straight out with you, is, you know, those Highland Beach people, they're a bunch of wealthy, arrogant, you know, beach owners who want their own way. They're a bunch of snobs. Well, we're not gonna let that happen. So that's the attitude. It's terrible. So there's got to be not only a relationship with Ms. Malani, you need a relationship with those commissioners, because right now, I have to believe Marshall will support the point of view that they're not in your camp right now. So she's got a tough job. You can see that right now. The message has got to be to find a way to get the county to sell this land, Malani. She's got the first right of refusal. Got to convince. How do you do that? What is the message that will get across and convince them to sell that land? And whether it's, well, there's 15 different reasons why. You can go through those and you have to prioritize them, but it's important to resolve that message. Lastly, it's a tall order. You said that, Marshall? Totally agree. With the prior commission, with Mayor Hillman, the tall order was to build a fire EMS after we canceled the contract with Delray. That was tough, not only to do, but to get agreement and to do what we're doing now, and with Chief Joseph leading that effort. Your signature success will be Malani Park, just as the fire EMS was a signature success of Mayor Hillman's commission. I can only say I'm trying to work and support Ron. I've been to his meetings. I'm trying to feed him as much as possible. I am here as, you know, a partner with you, and this must succeed. But right now, this train's going off the track, regardless of what Jack Halpert says. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to comment about John. I think his performance over the last several years speaks for itself. One of the things I'm wondering about, when I look at the things I've been involved in terms of most of my history has been in putting projects in that people don't want, from nuclear power plants to low-level waste depositories to 150-foot high transmission towers to solid waste landfills and trash steam plants. Nobody wants those things more than the park. And so I look at all the opposition that I've run across all the years in terms of that. I'm wondering where the ultimate decision is the commissioners. Okay. In spite of some chatter that occurred a couple of minutes ago, the commission, what about just approaching the commissioners directly in terms of and I'm really talking to you, Sharon, as well, as part of this, approaching the commissioners on privileges of the floor, that we get a whole bunch of us going up there with different subjects and approaching the commissioners directly. I mean, the fact of handing out pictures of what that beach looks like at high tide, it ain't a swimming beach. And let them see what the facts are, present facts. Ron, I don't know if you've been considering, if you considered that, but I would suggest that as part of the program, as we all start going up there on privileges of the floor. The other thing, and Marshall, you've got great emails going out about Malani and everything. You have a great website that has a ton of information on it. I would put that link in there so people are more aware of all that data instead of them going online looking for Malani information. So 2 suggestions.
Women in the townhouse at Highland Beach. I haven't seen the plans for the park, so I don't know, are they offering any recreation? Are they gonna have any facilities, tennis courts, or just parking for the my comment is, we do need some recreation here in Highland Beach. I think I mentioned this when a year ago. For the picnic table. Wasn't do make the investment in cost of fortune. And we thought about doing it somewhere in the library, but it's all doubts and whatever. But I think it would be useful, and it would be a good message to say that Highland Beach is trying to provide some recreation, a beautiful cultural place. Having, I don't know if there's land here to do it. Ping pong tables and pickleball, tennis courts, whatever, but just to have some recreation for the residents. It would be a nice step.
Any other public comments? Anything else from the commission? We'll do that when it comes time to that item. We'll get there. Okay, so I think we've discussed that item a lot. Moving on to the consent agenda, which has the approval of the minutes. Any concerns about the consent agenda? And if none, if we could have a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to new business, resolution number 2024-001. A resolution of the Town Commission of Highland Beach authorizing the mayor to execute amendment number 8 to the State of Florida Department of Transportation District 4 Landscape Inclusive Memorandum of Agreement on behalf of the town, providing for conflicts and providing for an effective date.
Hello, good afternoon, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. So this is amendment number 8. If you recall, you had amendment number 9 back in December. Just a very brief summary of the staff report. So this is an amendment to the landscape inclusive maintenance agreement that the town has with FDOT. I provided on page 12 of your packets of lists of the amendments that have taken place since the initial agreement was executed in 2017. This is specific for the property at 3425 La Sanctuary. Back, if you recall, back on September 5th of 2023, you all approved a major modification for this property, given its multifamily. Now, after they received the approval, I did receive an amended agreement for landscaping improvements from FDOT. Initially, during the development review process, they indicated that they were just changing the landscaping on the property and not in FDOT's right of way, but things changed and that's fine. The applicant did have to go back to the planning board to amend their landscape plan, which was part of their major modification. Again, that landscape plan only had landscaping on the property. So they had to go back to the planning board, which they did in December, to amend that landscape plan to include the landscaping that they're proposing on FDOT's right of way. So the right of way, you'll see the plans that was submitted to FDOT. Those right-of-way plans match what was approved by the planning board in December, the amendment to the landscape plan. I'll be glad to address any questions. We also have the authorized agent here to address any questions as well.
I do have a question. Does the proposed agreement comply with section 28-10A of the town code, requiring the property owner to be responsible for the maintenance of all landscaping on adjacent public rights of way?
Right, so typically after the agreement is executed, we send a hold harmless to the property owner. So they have to fill that out. And in that hold harmless, it talks about that 28-10, that even though the agreement that we have with FDOT is between FDOT and the town, right, we do have that provision in the code where it is the applicant, the property owner's responsibility, not only to maintain the landscaping on their property, but the adjacent right of way. So that's all handled in the hold harmless as well.
Because it seemed inconsistent. Because the agreement, unless I missed the operative sentence, it said that the town, as you just said, that the town is responsible.
Right.
And now you're saying that that's part of the hold harmless?
Right, that's correct.
And that's how it was done before?
Yes,
Our
this is
legal
how
has
it's been
left.
done, through the
Okay.
9 amendments, right?
Okay.
We do the hold harmless after the agreement is executed.
And is it clearly understood by the homeowner that they're taking on that responsibility?
Well, it's a provision of the code that you're talking about maintaining the FDOT right of way.
Right, but I mean, at the time of submitting to do the additional planting. Is the property owner told expressly that that they must maintain it?
It may be in the agreement, of FDOT. I know that I typically sit down with all the applicants when they come before, like the planning board or the commission in this case, for major modification. And we talk about if there's any proposed landscaping FDOT right away, you have to maintain it. That's typically something we talk about at the pre-application meeting. I think it's been very clear. I've never had anybody shocked that, they have to maintain the landscaping in the right of.
Okay, thank
And
you.
especially they go through this process, it's something that we bring it to their attention.
No, I got enough record. Everything looks good. As long as the FDOT and planning board approves it, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I was going to say that I assumed that it was presented to FDOT and FDOT approved it.
Right, so attached in the packet, you have the FDOT approval, right? So they actually provide the agreement. They provide the amended agreement to us. So
Right.
it's coming from FDOT. And yes, obviously they approve those improvements in their right of.
And there really isn't any reason not to approve
Yeah.
it,
Right.
Mhm.
because we've done this in the past. We will do it until they redo our road, in which case we don't have to do that anymore.
Well, this is a little bit different. This is an amendment to the landscape inclusive agreement. I think what you're talking about is a right-of-way permit,
Mhm.
right? That once the R project is complete, you all approved a resolution a few years ago that once that R project is complete, then the right-of-way permit would be processed through staff administratively. But the amendment to the agreements, I know I've discussed this with Mr. Labadie, they do want, he does want them to come before the commission. So you're aware of any amendments to the agreement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, those it's specific for maintaining the landscaping in the right. Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I
the
don't
landscape.
see that there's any reason why we would have to do this. Thank you.
Now with the DOT coming in for the road there, I know like in my building next door, we were gonna do some work, but I know they're doing drainage work there, so we're holding everything off. Nothing will interfere with their.
Talking about
DOTs.
FDOT, well, they
They
approved these
they approved it, okay.
improvements. So I'm sure they looked at, their project and obviously we've had some situations in the past where somebody submitted for an improvement in the right of way and they denied it. So, they look at this, they obviously approved it, so they don't have an issue with it. Yeah.
And I would assume that when they come to redo the road, if there is an issue, that you wouldn't have an issue with them dealing with it however they had to.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, that seems fine to me.
Looks good.
So, yeah,
Good.
we could have a motion to approve.
I move we approve resolution number 2024-001.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously.
You're the first
Thank you very much.
resolution of the year.
Yeah. It's doing a nice job.
Okay, next item B, consideration of proposed amendment number 1 to the settlement agreement between the town of Highland Beach and Highland Beach Real Estate Holdings.
All right, so what you're looking at here, we've each had individual conversations regarding a potential option whereby Ms. Milani is willing to have a change of heart, or she's considering a change of heart. And some of these requests that, if you notice in this agreement, for anybody that's watching, these aren't like requests out of the air. These have come to us before, okay? She's asked us twice before. So if you will, is what she's asked, grant her what she's asked for the last 2 times before the commission. With that being said, she is willing to move off of her position that the county should continue to develop this park, and is willing to say that, you know what, it's 40 years, something like the county park to the north is just too long. The town's too riled up about it. I'm disinterested. So basically, to get her to have a little bit of a change of heart or a willingness to see things from our light would be to let's coordinate the developments, which give her a little bit more time, and then she could look at, because she has the right of first refusal, potentially jumping into the fray of developing the site or reacquiring the site. So she's made some general statements that she would be interested in reacquiring the property and carrying out a development similar to what she has adjacent. So those conversations have occurred. We put this together. I had Bob Sweetapple put this together because he knows Ms. Milani, put it back to her. Ms. Milani, Ms. Milani, and their counsel are reviewing it. So I don't know that you need to approve anything, but we do need to have a public discussion of it so it doesn't surprise folks. Again, these are levers we're pulling. I can't tell you if this is the silver bullet because I'm still looking for it, folks. I haven't found the silver bullet to stop this park. So it does offer some positive things, this agreement, where you're not extending her current development of the adjacent properties beyond the Milani Park timeline for construction. You're not putting it into a different time sphere. You're tying the two developments. Even if the county develops a park and has to put a parking lot, crosswalks, change the intersection, we're now looking at coordinating that whole area at one period of time. So it'll be done around the same time as, because she's at 25. So she would have to start construction ahead of, maybe the county builds it, maybe the county doesn't. Then we have 3 or 4 projects all executed at the same time with FDOT just finishing a 3R project. It's going to be a mess. So there is some positives out of a potential agreement where you're getting, one is getting a 5-year to 2030. The other is a 3-year with a couple 1-year or 2 years with a couple 1-year extensions. It ties it back to the Milani timeline. So everything that gets done there is on the same time horizon. Now, again, so we're going to give her this and then she's going to support us, right? It has some negative look to the agreement. We talked about that. But what we also talked about and what hopefully that isn't putting pressure on you, like this is the only priority you have or you've all failed on something that you've inherited. Seems odd to me, but this is very important. Mayor, as you said, we're resourcing all options to achieve the goals communicated to us by the community. So this is one of them. You may like it, you may not. You don't have to approve it today, but we got to put it out there that Ms. Milani is starting to see it our way, if you will. And I don't want to say our way, but she's beginning to see the value of not the park. Now, a couple folks said naming the fire station. No. There's no fire station being named after Ms. Milani. It's the old fire station where we park the 2 apparatus that we eventually want to turn into a little outdoor community center. Not the fire station. The new fire station has no name. I've not been directed by you yet to come up with the name or sell the name or any of those things, but it's the old fire station where the 2 vehicles would be, would potentially, if the county abandons with her joining our efforts to oppose the project, naming rights that are lost because of the park would then, Cam Milani's memory would be memorialized on the old fire station. But this for that. So it has that look and feel to it, right? But again, what we're offering, she's already asked for. Now, these aren't new peculiar changes, more density, this or that. She's already come to us, wanted height. She wanted a little more time. We just never got to that point. So granting those things on the adjacent properties, if you will, mends the fence that's been broken over the years, if you will, if that's where it's been, and allows us all to come back from equal ground and say the park isn't the best option on that property. So there you go. This is a look at it. You can tell me, again, there's a big open on 6, right? We talked about land use planning because that site is zoned for parks. So if we don't change the zoning on it, an effort, the park really doesn't have a value. It could have a value, understanding express willingness. But Ms. Milani said, well, okay, what if I have a right of first refusal? I don't know that I want a park property that I can't do anything on. So the idea with item 6, and this is a big part of our conversation, that if it was to be rezoned via legal instrument, what zoning district is appropriate? You have a couple adjacent, you have single family that's adjacent, that's going to hold value down. There's low density, medium density, and high density. that's 6, 12, or 16, 35, 35, or 50 respectively for each of those zones. So, I think single family, you limit it, you can build big homes, but the underlying value isn't gonna probably be perked up enough to draw the county's attention. But if we moved it up to say medium density-ish, and then you still keep 35 or 50. And again, this doesn't have to be absolute. There could be other negotiations or things that are done down the road. But this is kind of an expression of, if it was to be rezoned, our heads are kind of here. And we can move in that effort, because there is some concern on her end, like, what are you gonna do with the property, right? So, and that drives the value, right? If it's, you can't do anything with it, it has no value outside of the park.
Right.
But if we express our willingness to change it to something, then that will draw potentially purchase options and things. So, I mean, what you think, where you want to go with this, and I willing to communicate that.
In my view, there's a difference now because she's willing to trade something. In the past, she's come asking for things without giving us something in return. And because we really do not want this park, this is a big give on her part. But we've also tied in some of the concessions that we're making to her giving us this give on the park, to her going to the county and saying no. And we've also tied in naming of the old firehouse to the fact that the park not be built. Because if they're gonna build the park and it's gonna be the Cam D. Milani Park, well, then we don't need a Cam D. Milani building in town.
But it's good that you mentioned that, just so, everybody goes back through records over time. That was the conversation we had, I think it was with Mr. Rubin at the time.
Yes.
Okay, you want us to make a concession to your settlement agreement. What does the town get from making that concession? And she wasn't willing to do anything. Now she's willing to give us something for a concession, which is,
Yeah, because the
advocating with
settlement
us.
is a meeting of the minds where everybody gets something out of this. When she just comes in for an ask, there's no meeting of the minds there. She's just saying, well, we agreed to this before, but now I want something else. But now that it changes the character of what she is asking for and what we can give. Because I don't think we could have been able to do it without something going back and forth, because it was part of a settlement. So to me, it changes the complexion of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm very supportive of the initiative.
Yeah, I would like to say that, I don't know what happened 35 years ago, but we have a new board in, and we got to build up trust, Ms. Landy, and we both ways. And I think this is a great idea, and I thank Ron and Marshall, whoever's doing this, and this is something. If we can get Mrs. Milani on board and we can give her a little bit, it's going to be big when we go up to county. I mean, she says, I don't want this park, I want to buy the land back. This is big, and I think we got to trust each other, and she's got to look at it too. We're not, of course, maybe she wants to change something, and I think this is a real good start. I'm real happy to hear it.
Do think that you're right. We've got to make sure that we are able to change the zoning. Because if we can't change the zoning on those two pieces of property, then they're worthless to anybody except the county.
I think you can, because once it's. Yes, I think you can. I think there might be a little bit more fine tuning. We just need to know what is it that we're willing to put in here, right? Again, you'll get people that'll call you. I got the email on the it's not going to affect the live local one, because it's going to be done through a settlement agreement. So it doesn't open up zoning compliance for granting it. And it's granting, I would encourage you to keep to a district that we already have, right?
Right.
So you're not picking or recreating districts, or you're just going to say low density, medium density, high density, multifamily, or you could do single family. It's a possibility. It just holds that value down a little bit if you can only develop a handful of homes versus potentially 20, 30 or more,
I don't think that single-family homes, certainly on the west side, is a viable option for anybody who would want to buy that property. I would hold the east side to single-family homes, but maybe instead of just one on the lot, have two on the lot. So that makes the lot more valuable because you could sell two homes that have beachfront. I would not go with residential high density. I think that's just too much in that area. My preference would be low density, but I could be talked into medium density, depending on the argument.
Yes, Commissioner David echoes what I believe also. In other words, when Mrs. Malani was here, and we've all acknowledged many times that she's an astute business person. So I'm sure she's not going to be insulted in any way because we brought it up in looking at this arrangement. She came before the board, before the commission, and sought an extension. And the commission expressed at that time a lack of consideration for a new agreement. And this is straight contract law. And it was rejected on that basis. There didn't appear to be a significant benefit to the town. And that was the consensus at that time. This addendum to the settlement agreement, I think, is very good in many ways. First of all, it acknowledges the partnership that we seek with her. In order for, in the consideration, we would be extending changes and extensions. Again, we're not expanding the time frame, but we're giving parcels of extensions. One would be upon signing of the agreement and her agreement to all the terms. It is only after we say the additional extensions would be contingent on the suspended development of Malani Park. So in other words, you do X, Y, Z, and if successful, then there's another benefit. But what I like about this is that it is very clearly spelled out each one's obligations. And here there is specificity with respect to what we anticipate a compliance would be. Whether she does a written opposition, a good faith cash offer, et cetera. So I think that this is very well thought out. And I would support that. But I also like to offer another option, just something for discussion and consideration. So currently, we have this agreement on the table that Mrs. Malani, that we have the partnership, because this public parking is anticipating about 120 cars on a daily basis in our town. So I think that the partnership that with Ms. Malani, that we are trying to encourage her partnership to reject the county's development. So assuming that the county does not develop the park, we're successful. They decide they're not developing the park. And in furtherance of this continuing partnership with Ms. Malani, I'd like to propose that the commission take under consideration for discussion the proposed purchase of Malani Park by the town of Highland Beach. And I believe that the purchase of the park by the town would benefit Malani by establishing a legacy for her family. This is what she wanted. It would preserve and celebrate the historic nature of the land, its past inhabitants, its history, and there's deep history here. And in this way, it would preserve this and afford the citizens of Highland Beach total control over the nature and scope of development. So whether it be a ping pong table or a recreation building or whatever it is, I mean, we would have total control in deciding, the commission representing our townspeople, what we want to happen with that parcel, with both parcels. Can we buy it well, say it's $30 million. I ask our manager, our astute manager, to possibly run some numbers. What would bonds be feasible?
Sure.
Low-cost loans, grants perhaps. And so I think that in this way, Highland Beach is, this miracle, this 3-mile stretch of beauty can only be further enhanced. I mean, we've demonstrated such boldness in developing the fire department. I mean, people were probably, I wasn't in town when that first idea came about, but look what we have accomplished. Why not look at it as an option? Now, this of course assumes that we establish that partnership with Mrs. Malani. But she would not be developing it. County declines to build, first step, with the help of Mrs. Malani. And all the townspeople coming out and speaking up and having their voice heard. Then what happens? Ms. Malani has the first option. If she doesn't exercise that option, and then I would refer to legal, then what has to happen legally? What is the strategy? Do we have the second option or it's out to bid? But that's getting into the weeds. What I'd like to offer, just as an idea of that we perhaps put on the agenda for another time, to have a discussion of the feasibility of us being the first or second bidder.
Well, I would say that that's a classic municipal public purpose purchase. Governments purchase land on a regular basis. We'd have to offer contingent because we can't spend 30 million, 25 million, but you can offer, make them react, make them make a response, make a contingent offer, contingent on successful referendum, the following, whatever, March of 25. Or maybe we could twist Wendy's for November, but she'd probably give me the stink eye, but maybe make a contingent offer. What are they gonna say? No? Well, we're right where we're at. We didn't lose any step. We're all tied in with finances. I'll have Dave do a 1-over on it, but you sell, 30-year general obligation bonds, probably get a pretty attractive rate, pay it off over 30 years. Then you could sell half of it, part of it, keep it, but I like the idea because it puts control back into your hands, puts the control back into your hands. And I'm looking at residents in the room, puts the control back into your hands to decide what you want to do with it, not the county or somebody else. It's kind of a good strategy, a tactic, option. I mean, if we want to do it, we can afford it. I'm pretty sure David will come back and it's just something we have to budget for because you spend it. I mean, I wouldn't say make a cash purchase, raise taxes to do it, but I think you could, over 30 years, it wouldn't be a huge hit on the general fund or the debt service millage to carry it.
Then the town determines the highest and best use.
Yep.
And the Malani family is celebrated. And the legacy to her husband will be there at the old firehouse in perpetuity. And we can celebrate the Malanis. After all, they are one of perhaps the original occupants of this town, have a lot of property. We can offer that celebration and she can participate in this because she is a resident of this town. She's one of the people that's going to be part of determining the best use.
I personally am not in favor of the town purchasing the land, but I'm not opposed to putting it on the agenda for us to talk about. I mean, I'm typically not opposed to putting anything on the agenda for us. It's for all of us to talk about, but so I don't know if we want to discuss, do we want to put something like that on the agenda? Do we want to direct staff to put on the agenda the possibility of the town buying the land?
Yeah, I would put it on the agenda for a future meeting. I don't think today is the time to discuss a brand new idea.
Okay, we're all in agreement of
Yeah.
putting it on the agenda in the future.
Agenda would not be my preference.
Okay, great. Okay, I think we all are good with that. Okay. I am also in favor of doing a settlement. And I view this in partnership with the Milanis. I think it was suggested that perhaps this isn't in partnership with the Milanis, but I actually see this as a partnership with the Milanis. So I do see this working with the family to resolve the issue. With respect to the zoning, I mean, I am definitely willing to specify a zoning, and I guess I'd like to hear what the Milani family's preference is.
Yep.
Um,
I caution that based on what their settlement agreement currently says, it's gonna be some district that doesn't exist.
okay.
Uh,
Oh, I guess, or maybe limit it to whatever the three are and, you know, what it,
I would pick a district and hold to that, just to hold your position. You ask a developer what they want. I don't know, you could get a high enough density or high enough height, but if we made a logical, reasonable selection, I didn't think of the split, keeping the east side single family or something similar or down zone from there. Other side could have some more density. Keeps it consistent with what you see up and down the.
I just wouldn't want
Seems-
that to be the deal killer. Like if, you know, we put that in the settlement, she's like, oh, no, you know, because of that, I don't want this settlement. I mean, that's what
That-
I'm
that
trying
could-
to avoid.
It could be a little bit of a sticky point, but you know, if we put something in there, at least gives them something to react to. I don't know, maybe we can't get to it today. But that's something that they've expressed through the communication channels that, well, if we're gonna do this, well, what is it that we're gonna buy? Because right now it's a park. You know, there's no value to buying a park. Why would you spend? Without rezoning, we could make a contingent offer. Right? And keep it a park. Why we don't need to change it, but we'd be owning it. We could change it later or go through the normal community process of rezoning.
Well, if you
I'm
think it's
all
best,
ears.
if you
I'm all
think it's
ears.
best to put something in there now, just as a, okay, go ahead.
And so what I'm hearing is you're accepting this concept because I don't think we're anywhere ready to make a quote contract. There's no agreement yet, but I think we're all hearing all the ideas and maybe the best thing is to give Marshall, Sweet Apple, myself, you know, a chance to now take everything you just said and say, okay, let's try and come up with something that's a little more concrete. And I think we're all hearing that conceptually, you like this concept. You can know there's going to be lots of tweaks all around, but am I correct? Everybody likes the concept.
It sounds like it. And if you think it's best to put some specific zoning in there, you know, as a starting point.
And we
But
can
I wouldn't
put
want it-
specific zoning in right this minute. You got
Right.
The zoning,
Right.
there was that quasi judicial issue, there's a settlement issue, so a lot of issues dealing around zoning. I'd rather caution us not to jump into the zoning yet. Give us all a little more time. We've gotten some feedback, obviously, Ron, thank you for coming up with more than a framework. So if that's the direction, I think we can take that and hopefully bring it back to the next meeting. Marshall, does that sound like a?
Well, we're gonna, the zoning's an issue. It's probably one of the biggest ones, because if we're saying that they're gonna make a cash offer or be willing to participate in the bigger game because they have the match rights in that purchase, I think we're gonna have to either express maybe we don't use the words that we're rezoning it, but express our willingness to rezone it to X or Y. So there's some understanding of what we or this commission is willing to go to based on adjacent zoning. That's why I say keep to a district. Don't pick and choose out of a district. Oh, I want this height out of this district, this density out of here, the setbacks. I would just pick a district that already exists in the zoning and say, that's, you know, if you will, that's where our heads are when we're willing to vote in that general
And
vicinity.
I think that's what we're hearing. We're
Yeah.
hearing, you know, either low or medium density. I'm not hearing anybody saying high density, right? Low or medium, and the 35 feet seems to be maybe the 50, but probably the 35. So
Well, again, just to speak to, you know, making our documentation record, the height that you're about to grant would in essence give the height that's currently existing in zoning. You're not getting any special treatment because we had absolute numbers in the agreement. Good for us. That's the one thing we did pretty well on. But if you go to the current zoning district, it's 35 feet from the first living floor elevation. So it allows for a garage. And that's what's, if you will, been her issue with the other development is once she puts in an acceptable size garage, right? It pushes above the stipulated height versus now measure from that height. So, that's another reason why it's in the agreement. Again, these are asks that have already been made. And your grant, if you do get to the point of granting it, you're not granting something outside of an existing zoning district. It's generally keeping to that.
So I'm in favor of putting the zoning of a limited, one of the options that we currently have that makes it as valuable to the, I guess I'm trying to convey that, we're trying to make this as valuable to the Milanis as possible so that they are willing to move forward with the settlement, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if only leaving the east side as single family and that is not valuable to them, I wouldn't want the deal to fall apart just because of that. That's my opinion. And then the other thing about this, I would like it to be as specific as possible. This is definitely an improvement from the first iteration. I guess the only, it says preparation of written opposition, preparation of good faith cash offer. I mean, I don't know, taking a step further, preparation and submission of, just preparing it, in my opinion, is not enough. And that is kind of just been my observation of the entire thing, to just make it as specific as possible so that it's clear when something has failed or succeeded that,
Exactly
we
the same-
know.
You're thinking exactly the same way. This is a good concept.
Right.
Not ready to be a quote contract yet, but it sets forth the concept and you will put flesh on the bones, so to speak.
Right, right. But is the timing of this kind of important because we want her to speak in February?
Yeah, and I
Probably.
just don't know. They didn't give me a hard yes. So we're not really there. They're talking with their I mean, it could fall apart, but again, community needs to understand is we're making every effort. We got a contingent offer consideration we're gonna bring back for the town to purchase it. We're considering these things, so I think we continue on our path to cross every bridge, make every effort we can. And if it falls apart, it does, but I think we're close to potentially striking an agreement. And I've been asked by many, is the juice worth the squeeze? And we some of that you just don't know. But some of the risk on our end is, how much water does she still hold in the county, or power or control or influence? But anecdotally, if one was if you're naming the park after somebody, that person is no longer wanting the park. It's got some credibility. It's got some movement, if you will, especially when we go talk to county commissioners and say, hey, Ms. Maloney doesn't even want it anymore. Everybody that used to want it is no longer wanting it. Town's willing to buy it from you to make you go, let your headache go away. Somebody else may want to, whatever that is, all the irons are in the fire,
I would also add, when in redrafting, that you revise paragraph 7. This precludes her from causing it to be utilized for public use, construction, and/or projects. So it's public, except for Highland Beach, except for the town of Highland, or some broader exclusion, because this is some limited exclusion. This is very broad.
Public comment, yes. Oh, sorry. Maybe let's let Ron come first. Yeah, thanks.
Ron Rami, Bolton Highlands, Dalton Place. Time is of the essence, I think. Obviously, it would be great if the Malani family would come February 1st, agreements in hand, saying, here we are, and we don't want the park based on these various things and so forth. So it'd be, I think it seems like you're at the point where a negotiation with the family now could take place, and a meaningful negotiation of something. And I think obviously it has to have the second element of the density, I think medium density is what is needed. That's up to you, obviously, but I think that's what's needed to get this ball rolling. And obviously, that element has to be there. I'm not sure I've heard different things about, what can actually be done on that part of it quickly. But the framework, I think, needs to be agreed upon with the family. I mean, the whole thing needs to be done if possible, quickly, if it's going to have the impact. And obviously February 1st would be the best time. I think that whole case would be wonderful to present right then. So obviously, you're talking about getting all of the things done prior to February 1st. I mean, this is, in my mind, the most important element that the family can stand up here and say to Marcy and the whole commission, this is why we have the agreements and we're ready to buy it back and develop it according to.
I don't think all would be lost. I mean, I think about it, if the outcome of the first was strong community pushback, and then based on that, we struck a deal after saying, listen, town does not want this. I don't want my husband's name on something that everybody that lived here doesn't want. I think it gives her some credibility, and then maybe the action items is she goes and meets with the county commissioners individually. Let her go and plead her case to each one. It's after her name. I mean, it has some monumental, fact that, hey, this is my husband. I'm done. That might have some value too.
Might make that a suggestion. You can always have a special meeting before February 1st. Give us 2 weeks to work out these details. Again, we got a lot of concept here. Maybe give every chance to put the deal together. And I see that January 30th is a Tuesday, 2 weeks from today, 2 days before February 1st. If you want to call a special meeting that day, and if it hasn't happened yet, because the lawyers have messed it up or whoever hasn't gotten the final deal, you can just cancel that meeting. But you can at least get a date locked in, and everybody seems to respond better with deadlines. And we know there's a deadline to get this worked out if we can do that.
It's a possibility, yeah.
Thank you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. We can schedule a special meeting, but she can also go in front of the whole county commission. We're talking about having people go up there and speak to them anyway. So she could be part of a group that goes up there all at the same time. Doesn't mean you don't present it at the first meeting, but you can back it up with presentations at later meetings at the county directly, as opposed to with one commissioner here.
What date would that special meeting be? If it was January
I think you're right, Glenn. I think the 30th of January is probably the acceptable date. A couple days prior, it's a Tuesday. We're used to meeting. It'd be a one item agenda to capture.
It is not cutting it close. I mean, we finalize our settlement 2
We'll
days
do it.
before and we want her. I mean, I guess I'm curious, what do we have left to really finalize here? I mean, if it's just the zoning, I mean, I'm in favor of the medium. I mean, it gives some flexibility, on all the parcels and.
The one thing is they haven't agreed yet.
I know they haven't agreed,
right.
but I mean, we need to make some sort of offer, right? And if we wait till 2 days before just to make the initial offer, I
Well,
think that's taking.
My thought was 2 days before you'd have an agenda and says, here's a contract.
You're already
signed.
you'd be
Right.
finalizing
Okay,
it, not
signed.
even.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
consideration.
that's not to discuss it again. That's to sign a contract,
we
to
don't have
authorize the
something signed-
signature of a contract.
But when do we
on-
talk about zoning? Aren't there still some outstanding items that you want us to finalize? Or
Well,
have
you could just, like you said, just pick it. See if it scares them off. They want too much or they want less. At least we'll get a feeling of this is where we're comfortable. And then if they want something else, then that would be the counter offer from them to offer something that's uncomfortable for you to be. If everything's in place except for zoning and they want something you say yes, then maybe you say no. You might say, hey, you know what, that's just too much.
And to follow from Marshall's point, February first is obviously a very important day, but it's not the end all be all.
Right.
Right, it is.
Miss Malani appearing on one-on-one meetings with commissioners, her attending the full county commission meeting is at least as important to me as attending this meeting, because there's gonna be 100 speakers that day. Probably, a lot of speakers that day, so. I know, I sense the urgency, but let's not rush it and, with the haste makes waste kind of idea. We could try to get an agreement done by the 30th, so that it's an agreement that she's signed, and that this is what I agree to, and then falls in your court, we've already heard from you kind of where you're going. I'm hearing loud and clear, high density is not gonna work, so I think she's hearing that too. Whether on video or whatever, so I think we kind of heard from the commission where you'd like to wind up. I think we have a sense where she'd like to wind up. Let's just paper it. Let's make sure we get all the details worked out. As you said, there's a lot of preparation. Let's get it. Put in the
So I
right.
guess I'm not understanding what you're saying. So you, tomorrow, you would share this with the Milani family and say, this is where we're at so far? So what, I guess that's what I thought. you
It's gonna
were
take-
saying.
Glenn's gonna go back and take a few days to pencil out a form that he's comfortable. He's not comfortable with this form. But he could be comfortable with a slightly different form, but he's got a draft of that form of this. And then, once we hear back from them as well, then we can share it back and forth and start getting the finer details. So this is kind of a memorialization of conversations, a bunch of individual conversations where I'm like, all right, maybe something like this. Now you guys are saying, that makes sense. It sounds good enough to jump off and take that next deeper dive into the issue. Because you could have come today and said, no, I haven't been. No, thanks. And you can still do that. You might come back in 2 weeks and be like, I talked to enough people. I can't do it. So it gives you a little bit more time to contemplate.
And I would not put other specifics in here at this time if we don't know if they're even interested in it. Because if there's going to be a negotiation, you want to negotiate from this, not from something else.
Well, it's two forms of negotiation, right? We can have a conversation with their counsel. Really, a negotiation is what are you willing to do? So, I mean, it's a little bit different than, I can't, like I said, doing any of this stuff in Florida is near impossible because I can't broker a deal. I can get concepts of a broker deal and you have to say, yeah, this will work, this won't. So that's why it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, but
Kinda-
we've already eliminated high density. So you're now down
Mhm.
to either low or medium. And,
Once we put that in there, you're right.
It's-
It's gonna be
it-
that's their big sticky issue. So
right.
that'll tell us if they're in or out.
And you've already expressed your support for a lot of other things here. Which
Yeah.
Until today, I didn't know if you would support them all, not Marshall knew if you'd support them all, individually, maybe you support this or this, so. I think I certainly have a much clearer understanding of where you'd like to go. And again, I think Mrs. Milani will probably watch this tape, or her representative will watch this tape and say, okay, I see where they want to go. And where's that middle ground that we can meet and make an agreement?
and she's a business person. This is a business deal.
And obviously, from a business standpoint, if she can reacquire that property with the zoning changes, it's a great business deal. So she has an incentive, I would think, to want to move this forward. We have an incentive to want to move forward. Both sides want to make a deal. We can make a deal.
So I think the consensus is to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think ideally if she could come, if we do it, and so that she can come February 1st, I think that is beneficial. But if it doesn't, the concession is, I think, fine too.
Yes, we're going to
Um,
set January 30th as a date. Again, if it was to be canceled, but publicly announcing it now, you've got plenty of notice. No, none of this have to worry about calling it.
Probably won't notice it till next week. I need to
Okay.
get some feedback that
Okay.
they're in play. Because they may come back like, oh, it's not only gonna be high density, it needs to be 200 feet. I don't think it's not gonna happen. Call it a day.
However, to put another wrinkle. If it is, if she's in general concert with us to oppose the parking lot. And if the commission decides after more discussion and review and due diligence, that there is a possibility and a willingness to have the land or to purchase the land, then there may be another option whereby she can benefit by the cooperation and partnership as expressed in this agreement. And if she doesn't have the wherewithal or desire to invest herself in building, perhaps then that she would consider still opposing the county's parking lot and endorse our purchase. So where does that come into play?
Well, wouldn't we have to agree that we're willing to purchase and we're not there yet?
Okay,
I
yeah,
mean,
come in. It's the next, we talk about it again, yes. It's a what if scenario.
But
Yeah,
that,
this is just what if. I mean, I'm just following the thought that
I don't know that, I don't know. I don't know that we should hold up the settlement process for us to hash out whether or not the town's willing to buy.
Yeah, I
the
think what
property.
Commissioner Goldberg was saying, if the density becomes the problem, that part of the agreement potentially comes out and is replaced with, she'll advocate for town purchase of the property,
So that's like,
something like that. yeah.
so that we don't
basis
lose the
of-
whole picture.
Yeah.
It is that, well, density does it, that's it, we're having a parking. So
Oh,
that
and-
where there's an opening, come work with us, and perhaps there'll be other resolutions that would be more beneficial to the town, including,
so we wouldn't
Oh, land
hold up
purchase.
this next step of this settlement. You're just saying, thinking down the line.
yes, yes.
Okay. So let's not hold this up for that.
Yes. right.
And we can talk about that option when we have it at the future meeting.
I mean, she's got the right to first refusal, so if she wants to buy it and do it, we don't have no choice, that's it.
But the question is the value of it.
Yeah.
And that's a very
the value
important
work.
part, is what's the value of that property?
Should we be doing an appraisal?
We're gonna pick a zoning. It's not worth much.
Right.
It's
It's,
worth that
should we make an
property.
assumption?
We could set the value too. If you're purchasing it, you could just purchase it at any price without regard, and then you protect your interest by leaving it as a part. I mean, there's a whole bunch of
Mhm.
ins and outs and what ifs, but I don't know. I don't know where we end up, folks. I just don't know. So.
Okay, so we, go ahead.
No,
Okay, yes, we never finished the public comment, so sorry about, I'm sorry to
Yeah, go
interrupt
ahead.
you, please. I'm,
Go ahead.
we definitely want to hear from you. I'm very sorry.
But, is she aware that they may be interested in?
No, because we had never discussed that
Yeah,
before.
it came up
We
today.
didn't know we were interested in it.
I think-
And I don't know that we are. It was just something to discuss in the
I
future.
think it's possibly a great solution to avoid having the same value. Lots of traffic. It's already, the traffic is already getting crowded, so having, running back and forth. So, in addition to the whole race issue. Is there any way to communicate with the public about this, so as if they knew that the city was in favor of purchasing, keeping it within the city?
I don't know that we
You're right.
truly are in favor of it. I think we're in favor of thinking about
Thinking
it,
about it.
not necessarily completely in favor of it.
So the way it's communicated is it will be an agenda item on a future meeting. And so that's when everyone can bring their input.
But the public meeting would. When does that mean?
February 1st, the county is it's actually the county's meeting. It's a public outreach. Yes, yes. And it's where we're encouraging all the residents to come out and share their opinion. Because when Marshall and I met with the county commissioner, Marcy Woodward, she believes that she does have local stakeholder support for this park. So one of the main objectives of this meeting is to make sure everyone shares their opinion on whether or not they support a county park. So,
This meeting is not this week.
yeah, potentially anyone. can
Anybody,
come.
yep.
Yeah, potentially.
Yep.
So it's a county meeting that's held here in our library. Yep. Yep. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so just to sum it up, we want to move forward with this type of
Yep.
settlement and see where it takes us. I think we are willing to specify some sort of zoning, probably not a high density. I mean, I think we would like to move this forward as quickly as possible. But understand that we want to be careful and do the right thing, so. Okay. Do you need any others?
I got direction.
Okay. Moving on. Item C, consideration to approve and authorize the mayor to execute a janitorial maintenance services agreement with Imperial Cleaning Corporation in an amount of $77,976 for janitorial maintenance services for town-owned facilities. Yeah.
Council. Yes, we're just asking for the mayor to sign a service agreement with Imperial Cleaning to clean the town facilities. We tried to do in-house, didn't work out, so now we got to go out. Janitorial services. Facilities, I think.
I guess my question is, how do these costs compare to what we had paid?
We actually went out and got 3 bids, and
Yeah.
Imperial was the lowest.
Okay.
After it wasn't working inside.
Okay,
We went out and got 3 bids. Imperial was-
okay. So now that we're not going to do it in-house, is the budget for cleaning about the same? It is,
It's actually
okay.
had a little bit more money in for the single employee.
Oh,
It-
okay.
It almost didn't come out. Actually,
Okay.
a little bit about that.
So it doesn't really cost us anymore. Okay,
Just gotta move some money around.
okay. And they have a good reputation.
Actually,
doing
so far, so great,
Yeah.
yeah, and all the reviews were good, and I haven't heard a complaint yet, so far. They've been on the job 2 months and been very excellent.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Is there any, guarantee you can back out in 30 days if they don't do a good
There's
job?
something in the
Come
contract,
in.
it's a 30 or 60 day out.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, both parties. Both ways.
Okay.
And a 1-year term.
Yes, 1 year.
Correct. And it did say that there's for no reason you can back out with 60 days notice. If for a reason, it's a shorter period of time.
Okay, if we're all in agreement, if we could have a motion?
I move that we approve the contract for cleaning services of $77,976 with Global Services, Inc. Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, do we need a roll call since this is money? Okay.
No, I
Okay.
think the agreement is with Imperial Cleaning
Oh.
Corporation.
Yes.
So just making it, you said global. I thought you said global. So I was just
Oh, well,
correcting that for the
because that's
record.
what it said over here. Okay, so then change the motion to Imperial Services.
Yes.
Do you need us to go through the approval again? The second, okay. Moving on to town commission comments.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you very much. Moving on to commission comments, Commissioner Goldberg.
Well, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. And it was a very robust meeting. I'm so happy that we had the comments and look forward to further discussion about Milani Park. It is so very important to our community. So I think that we should look very seriously at every option and deal quickly and in good faith and establish a good relationship with the Milani family, with Mrs. Milani.
Yeah, I like the same remarks there. Thank you, Sharon. That was interesting. And I like your thing. I forgot, we're a new board, but the county's new board. So you have different people there that might be a little more generous and listen to us. And I just want to say to everybody, the whole board is trying to fight this and we're all against the park. So we're doing everything we can. You can see by hiring everybody with Sharon, Marshall, the mayor, everybody, and we're all against this. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very rare that this town comes out so one-sided on an issue. And it's definitely one-sided on this issue. As you said, there may be a handful of people who think it's a good idea, but boy, are they in the minority. So, yeah, we have to do everything we can so that this park does not get built in a way that displeases our residents.
I would agree. I just want to make the comment. I think it would be a very powerful statement if we can get an agreement with Milani at that meeting as a closing statement that they are in fact on board with it. I think the commissioners can walk away with the message very powerfully. So I think would be, if we can reach an agreement, I think would be a terrific for us strategically.
I agree. I definitely agree. And hopefully we will prevail. We will do our best. So Sea Turtle lighting, when will we talk about Sea Turtle lighting again?
That'll be at our first meeting in February. The Sun Sentinel just didn't give Linelda what she wanted, so we
Oh,
have
okay.
to
So we tried
repost
to
it.
notice
Yeah.
it. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, great. And can we have an update on the town entry sign project?
Yes, I know you email, I apologize. I've been kind of unit issue focused. So this design was finished, took a little bit longer. We wanted to incorporate some of the items that Chief Hartman wanted to see for our LPR cameras within the design. Then we took a greater look at the type of materials, frangibility, things of that nature. And moved through that. Then we went out to bid. And we awarded a bid for about 25 grand to build the two signs. It doesn't include landscaping, but it includes the signs. So we'll have two new signs installed. They're going to start going through the permitting process. I think after January 22nd, they said they had some other obligations on projects, and then they'll move forward and build it. And then we'll probably have to do some touch-up work. Pat do some touch-up landscaping that makes sense with a landscaper. And then we'll have two new entry signs. And then eventually when fire station and all this stuff over here is done, we can have a third sign that would match and pull through that. So it is moving forward. Design took a little bit longer. We changed a few things. We wanted to make sure we built it the most appropriate, cost-effective way. So
Any idea when it'll be completed? Any guess?
well, several months.
Okay.
I'm guessing, maybe May, June, maybe before then. I just don't know how long it takes to. It's like those foam and stucco. So it looks like it's stone, but it isn't. So they kind of pre-manufacture that, assemble it in place with some frangible footings that'll break away, and then we'll put some landscape in front, run some power for the camera system, and go from there.
I mean, just, yeah, we did say this was a low priority thing. I mean, we already have signs. It's not like it's super urgent or anything like that. So I think that the timing is in line with the priority that we set. Speaking of priorities, so when can we get the annual update to strategic priorities?
So I was working on that during the holidays, so we have an update as to status of where we are, so we can bring it back, and then we can add projects, check status. Again, smallest big town in South Florida. We've been really plugging away at some pretty remarkable things. Made some great progress. Some things we never just got to, just didn't get to it, but they weren't high in the priority. They're lower gas leaf blowers. Just didn't make the mark, it just didn't get there yet for us, but we'll be able to bring that in. Been working with Teresa, getting through the updates. Where's the status of that? Put that back into that docket, bring it to you, and then you can, what other projects do we want to look at moving forward?
Will it be in February, or do you have a target date?
February it is.
Yeah, normally we do it in the beginning of the year.
Yep.
So
We
I'd
did it
say
last year in
let's-
February, I noticed, so just usually I would have a little bit a month ahead of that. I would give you all the stuff to start looking at, but I'm a little behind, so we should be able to get that out over the next 2 to 3 weeks to respond to and see what our status and updates and progress is.
Sounds good. That's all I had. Town attorney. Okay. Town manager, anything else?
Yeah, so, went to Tallahassee for Palm Beach Days last week. Very interesting trip. I'll tell you some of the things offline that were once in a lifetime events, but, it was a good group again, able to make contact, again, working on our brand, our position and our existence, right? A lot of folks still don't, Highland Beach, they just eyes roll up, don't know where you're at. But had uncomfortable conversations with the appropriate people to let them know that we're here, we're working on things. There wasn't a silver bullet that existed. Commissioners are usually guarded at these events, hard to get to, but had some conversations. So they know us, we're here. It was productive. But again, I didn't see, that one silver bullet, like, hey, if you did this, it all goes, that didn't exist. But again, still building those relationship. Again, that's kind of that marathon versus a sprint, slowly, thanking folks for their support for the fire, preluding that other issues are coming forth, but I didn't want to, jam it in their face like, you got to do, that just doesn't work well in that capacity. But got an opportunity to meet with folks and talk with Commissioner Woodward and joked around a little bit with her. So, improving that relationship and, think she understands what's about to happen, a little bit. She joked about it. So I can tell you those jokes either too. So, went well, productive. And now we're, again, Milani stuff. I know you heard it in there. I believe you guys aim high and work hard and are well organized. I don't know that you could, the saddling that was stated during the meeting today, I don't know you need to be saddled that it's an absolute failure of your service to this community if Milani Park doesn't come to, I think it's a little strong. You inherited as much as any of us did. But I think you're doing Omen's work, kind of moving that forward and pushing and pulling all the levers, seeing what's out there to exist. So kudos to you all. You're working quite well at that and see where it goes, right? I think we're going to make a great effort. Folks come February 1st. I think that is really going to be how the conversation goes moving forward. If we have a good showing of our opinion and position, if there's a handful of people only, that's the walk is further. So if you know anybody that's got a blog that's dying, that wants to send one last message, this might be a good one. To check. So, hopefully that all goes well and we could go from there. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item is our announcements. Board vacancies. We are down to just one vacancy. So this is great for the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. We have one vacancy. Meetings and events, January 31st at 9:30 in the morning, Board of Adjustment and Appeals. It's not listed on here, but we've said it several times, February 1st at 6 p.m. here. We have the county meeting to discuss Milani Park. And then our next scheduled town commission meeting is for February 6th at 1:30. There are no board action reports. So assuming there's nothing else, we can adjourn the meeting at 3:44. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today.
Thank you.
Richard Pollock, that guy looks like he wants to talk tonight.
Nice to meet you.
What are we covering?
Thank you.
Oh, look who's